Welcome to another Highland League Weekly preview show. I'm Ryan Cryle and here's Callum Law with everything you need to know about this weekend's big game.
The main game for us this weekend on Highland League Weekly is Breedon City versus Fraserburgh at Glebe Park in the semi-final of the GPH Builders Merchants Highland League Cup. Breedon are looking to reach the final of this competition for the first time. To get to the last four, they defeated Formartine United 3-1 at North Lodge Park and Inverurie Locos 2-0 at Glebe Park. In the Highland League and Highland League Cup, Andy Kirk's side are still unbeaten this season. Their latest success was on Wednesday night when they defeated Bankside 1-0 in the league at Spain Park. Fraserburgh, meanwhile, are also in excellent form this term. In 10 games in all competitions, they've only lost once. The Broch have won the Highland League Cup on two occasions, 1959 and 2006, and they're aiming to reach their first final in the Highland League Cup since 2018. To get to the last four, Mark Cowie's men have beaten Devon Vale 9-0 at Princess Royal Park and Strathspey Thistle 3-1 at Seafield Park, and you'll be able to see who makes it to the final on Monday's Highland League Weekly.
Competition time. First point of order is to clear up who won the competition from 2 weeks ago. I know it's been an interminable wait for those who entered. The question was, when was the last time Lossiemouth won silverware? And the answer was 2003, season 2002-2003, when Lossiemouth picked up the North of Scotland Cup. The winner from several correct entries that was drawn is Fred Milne, so congratulations Fred. Let us know whether you'd like a Highland League Weekly mug or a Crystal Paul tea towel. I suspect I know the answer to that. Send your details to sport@prestonjournal.co.uk and we'll get one of these sent out to you. This week's teaser is going to be slightly different. What we're going to ask you to do is predict the two winners in this week's GPH Builders Merchants Highland League Cup semi-finals, the two teams that get through to the showpiece. Now, easier said than done, of course, if you're a regular viewer of Crystal Paul, to predict the winner of any game at Highland League level. However, give it a go, send your answers in. Only answers before Saturday tea time are going to count, because otherwise it'll be pretty obvious by then. But once we've got all the correct answers collated, we'll draw a winner, and you could either win a Highland League Weekly mug or a Crystal Paul tea towel.
The second game for us on Highland League Weekly this weekend is the other GPH Builders Merchants Highland League Cup semi-final. It's Brora Rangers versus Keith, and here's three things you need to know. Brora come into this encounter in excellent form. They're on a 4-game winning run, during which they've racked up 17 goals. They were in imperious form in their last outing last weekend against Berwick Rangers in the Scottish Cup, winning 5-1 against Lowland League opposition. Keith are the most successful side in the history of the Highland League Cup. They've lifted the trophy on 10 occasions. The last was in 2013, and they're aiming to reach their first cup final since then. This clash is the second meeting between Brora and Keith this season. The sides faced off just a fortnight ago at Kynech Park in the Breedon Highland League, and it was the Carters who ran out winners that day by 1-0. That goal was scored by Paul Brindle, but you'll be able to see if there's a different outcome on Monday's Highland League Weekly.
Okay, it's Crystal Paul sans Crystal Paul this week. Callum's going to fulfil the role of the great mystic. Well, I say great mystic, the score is currently 19-5. The opposition, which usually includes Callum, in fairness, are in a very comfortable lead at the moment. Of course, we're going to be predicting the two GPH Builders Merchants Highland League Cup semi-final ties ahead of the weekend. First up, Callum, Breedon City against Fraserburgh. What's the score going to be?
Well, I'll give you a lot of waffle before I get to the score, but I think they can both play better than they did in midweek. Breedon won late on and Fraserburgh drew at Keith. Weather obviously didn't help, I think, in either game really, maybe a bit scrappy, but I'm just going to go with Breedon, probably based on home advantage, because they haven't lost a game at Glebe Park against Highland League opposition since February 2022. In leagues and cups, it's a run of 29 games, unbeaten against sort of Highland League teams at Glebe Park. So with that, I would just edge for them, but I'll say 2-1 to Breedon.
I'm going to go the other way in the interest of balance. I'm going to say 3-2 to Fraserburgh.
Oh well.
Breedon conceding 3 goals, but we'll go for it. Second one, then Bro Rangers against Keith. Long journey for Keith, this one.
Well, there are longer journeys, but I think Keith last week in the Scottish Cup lost 5-2 to Lunkerty, which fluke's maybe the wrong word, but it's not what I expected, and I think Keith are a far better team than that, and they showed that on Wednesday night against Fraserburgh, getting a 2-2 draw. And I think they'll play well again this weekend, and I think they'll score, but I would still be inclined with the form Bro are in at the moment, very impressive, and playing at Dudgeon Park, I would still be inclined to favour the Catholics, and I would say 3-1 Brora.
I fancied that score. I'll go for another upset. Then, if nothing else, it'll kind of get the scores perhaps a bit even. Crystal Paul.
You might be right.
I'm going to say 2-2 and Keith to win on penalties. It's very specific.
Craig Reid to be the shootout hero again.
They've knocked out Bucky on penalties, and now the fairy tale continues against Bro Rangers. All right, well, look at the scores this weekend. Tune in next week to find out how we got on. Now, Bucky won handsomely in the Scottish Cup last weekend at Tayport, but this will be their first domestic outing since 2 disappointing results against Keith in the Highland League Cup, where they lost in penalties, and a defeat against Bankside. The lessons from those games for the title hopefuls was they need to be more clinical. Nairn, meanwhile, their recent great run was ended in the Scottish Cup last week by Broxburn. However, in the last few weeks, they've shown no shortage of goal-scoring ability and defensive solidity, the sort of form that you need to trouble the league's top sides.
Huntly versus Clachnacudden. The Lilywhites will travel to Christie Park, buoyed by their first win of the season last weekend in the Scottish Cup. However, they'll face a stern challenge against a Huntly side in excellent form. Alan Hale's men have won 5 of their last 6 games in all competitions.
Formartine United against Turriff United. Formartine last tasted anything other than victory when they lost in the Highland League Cup to Brechin City on August 26th. They're the league leaders, they're scoring barrel loads of goals, and Turriff will know they need to be organised defensively to have any chance in this one through the likes of Ewan Clark and John Allen. Turra do carry a threat going forward though, and they've won 3 of their 4 games so far in all competitions this month.
It's 2 teams meeting at Seafield Park who need to tighten up a bit defensively. Strathspey are still searching for their first points in the league. They've lost their last 5 games in all competitions, conceding 24 goals in the process. The Scorries have also been a bit porous defensively in recent times. They've also lost their last 5 games in all competitions and have conceded 22 goals in that run.
Both Locos and Rothes exited the Scottish Cup last week at the hands of Clack and Brechin City, respectively. Locos, their manager list, they're at a low ebb. They haven't got a win in the Breedon Highland League yet this season, and their last victory came last month against Rothes in the GPH Builders Merchants Highland League Cup. Rothes, meanwhile, they've been on okay form as far as the Highland League is concerned. They're mid-table, and their only loss since the start of August in the league came at the hands of Brechin. That's it for another Highland League Weekly preview show then. Just a reminder, this weekend we'll be filming Brechin City against Fraserburgh and Bro Rangers against Keith as our highlights games, so you can watch the best of the action from those on the Press and Journal website on Monday evening at some point. In the meantime, please subscribe to the Press and Journal's Highland League newsletters. There's a link to do that somewhere on this page. You can also follow Highland League Weekly on all of the social media channels, maybe not all of them, but certainly X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. That's correct. Thank you. In the meantime, enjoy the football, whichever games you're watching, and we'll see you Monday.